The pandemic was really interesting as a social experiment. You know, you're looking back at it, and it was like, oh my god, Donald Trump, oh, he's going to bring fascism. He's going to bring fascismus. He may require people to show ID to vote. Then the pandemic happens, and you need to show papers in order to go visit the McDonald's. Hate speech laws, yes, we need more of those, because it's bad. You shouldn't do it, right? Attacking marginalized groups is not okay. And then you have politicians going around like the unvaccinated are killing people. We need to make sure that we frustrate the unvaccinated. What else did we have? Oh yeah, apparently they can shut down your business if they so choose. Police officers can look into your shopping bags to decide whether or not you bought essential things. If you're sunbathing alone in the park, you're a danger to society. And all of this was done to save one life. If only we can save one life, was the chant. But the moment the Ukraine stuff happened, they were like, to war! Very interesting, fascinating. What can I say? Like how easy people are swayed by the television. But it does seem that there is a type of person, a human being that has elevated. They transcended humanity to another level, and they have become resistant to the mainstream media. They have become resistant to the culture. And as you can see here, this is unseen footage from the United Kingdom conservative headquarters, right? And look what they are doing. Like, look how courageous they are. Like during one of the worst diseases mankind has ever known, where everyone had to be locked up in their homes and people were told to mask up, they're not doing any of this. Look at the amount of bravery. Like, look at their faces and understand that this is what a courageous human being is like. You know, like I even saw Boris Johnson on television. He was masked up, like he was afraid. But these people, not so much. You know, I love this. Like, this is the most beautiful thing. Like, you have here, please keep your distance. Right? But they're willing to risk it. They are willing to put their safety at risk in order to break the conditioning. Look, we don't stream that. We're like bending the rules. So they're not streaming. It's really nice. The NHS was powerless against these people. Like, even the might of the holy NHS, the holiest of the British institutions, could not dissuade these conservatives from partying and attempting to stop them from being so close. I mean, look at this. This was actual propaganda from the NHS. Look him in the eyes, okay? Look him in the eyes and tell him you always keep a safe distance. Have the conservatives not seen this? Have they not been aware that this was the case? Look her in the eyes and tell her you never bend the rules. Look him in the eyes. This one looks like Walter White. He's got the crystal thing going, like the eyes are blue. And tell him the risk isn't real. You know what I think is going on here? I think that they didn't have a television set. They did not have the television to be aware that this was going on. They did not pay for their BBC license, and as such, they couldn't have a television set. So they were clueless of what's happening out there in the world. People are saying that these are the conservatives. From my personal lived experience, I can safely say that this is representative of most politicians around the world. I mean, in Britain, they were under cameras. But let's not forget Justin Trudeau, my favorite politician, had the speech saying how on Easter we need to be more inventive and figure out how to celebrate Easter outside of our families. Like, maybe make some Zoom calls. Maybe figure out ways on how we can celebrate without actually being there. And then he got his entire security detail and went to see his family. Right? Because politicians know how to live. Like, they understand how reality works. They are grounded in reality, and propaganda is for the peasantry, for the masses. Another perfect example was during the Metropolitan Gala. And you got to see the mask as a symbol of status because all the actors and all the people at the gala were unmasked. But the staff, the aides, the people around them, the journalists, all of them were masked up. I mean, look, the pandemic was very beautiful in showing us how the world works, right? Like it cemented the people that are better than you and the people that are you. And now it's coming out into the spotlight. But what's interesting, and this is what I find fascinating, most people don't care. They literally don't care. It's like, oh, well, I suppose, like, well, what can we expect? I mean, they kept us safe. These conservatives are also going to be kept safe the next elections, unfortunately. You're going to get a Labour government. And it's not just due to this, but it does play a major role, just so you know. I'm pretty sure that if the Labour was in charge, things would have been different. Yes, like they would have definitely abided by their own regulations. They wouldn't have been partying. They would not have done any of this because Labour politicians are of a different stock. But at the end of the day, like, what is the difference between the Conservatives and Labour in the UK? Like, on economic issues, on social issues, on and I'm not talking about ideological, because ideological, I do understand that there are differences, but I'm talking about in practice, like when they're actively governing the nation. I suppose that maybe Conservatives are like Labour running under the speed limit, so Labour is going to have more aggressive legislation, right? But going in the same direction. It's going to be very omoshiroi, very interesting, as the Japanese people like to say. It is going to be a Labour government. Like, I think this is, though. You look at any polls, any statistics, and the reason for it is that most Conservatives are very disheartened by what they have seen. And chances are they may just stay home and not go to vote, which means that Labour, the opposition, may have its electorate very energized because they're also upset about what the Conservatives have done, and they might get. But the thing in the UK, just so you understand the politics of Britain, is that they have an army of social service workers, and the social service workers are the ones that are there to help the politicians govern. And usually you can change the politician, but the service worker is the same. And there is a very popular show, which I would recommend to people back in the day when censorship didn't exist as much as it is today. It's called Yes Minister. And the TV show of Yes Minister shows exactly how British politics are made. And you're going to understand why, despite the fact that you get a Labour government or you get a Conservative government, things are pretty much the same in the UK. It's kind of, the Americans call it the deep state, but in the UK it's kind of official. It's the civil service institution. And, yeah, it is what it is. It probably explains why Boris Johnson, initially, when the pandemic was announced, he was like, well, we're not going to do anything crazy. Like, we're not going to become China. We're going to tell the elderly and the people that are at risk to stay in homes, but life is going to go on pretty much like it's going on in Sweden and in Florida and in other places. But for some reason, all of a sudden, he did a 180. To the point where even people who claimed that they knew Boris Johnson were surprised that he would lock down the pubs and called it very anti-Britishy. But it is what it is. Still, I do encourage people to look back at what happened during the pandemic, especially when elections are coming. Look back, see all the nonsense that was done, the things that got debunked, because they want people to forget about these things, and when you talk on the street and you tell people, hey, you actually had to show papers when you went to McDonald's. Do you remember that? What do you mean I had to show papers when I go to McDonald's? I don't have to show papers when I go to vote. Right? Like, that is an interesting conversation. But let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.